Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. I am Jam, and this is a show where we sit around and we talk about games, board games, role-playing games, card games, miniature games. Hopefully going to get some Conquest videos up here soon. About things that we love, things that are beautiful, things that inspire us. And today we're doing a part 2 of a look at Chaosium's newest edition of Pendragon. Today we're looking at the core rulebook. And the core rulebook is gorgeous. It is got two ribbons. It's well put together. It is only 250 pages, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the new art, the new character sheet, the refinement of the rules, all fantastic. Before I get started, good morning to Padre and Mark and Tink and James. Good to see all of you. Cheers. So, what is in this newest edition of Chaosium's Pendragon, which you can pick up for $50. So it's $50 for a 250-page rulebook. Paper quality is spectacular. It's a nice heavy paper, kind of a tan. I'll show it off here a little bit. The layout is great. The art is fantastic, especially if you enjoy sort of the Arthurian legends and myths and stories and are familiar with that art style, then you are going to understand why this book was laid out the way it was. Now, what you get in this... Hey! That's fantastic. Thanks to James of Knights of the Smith Dinner Table for subscribing for 11 months. That's fantastic. Cheers, buddy. So what you get in this is literally the core rules. And I've seen some people talk negatively about that. There's no setting information. There's no bestiary. This is at best a player's handbook. Okay, those are all valid critiques of the book. There is no setting information, aside from the implicit setting information that leaks out on every page. Here is what it means to be a knight. Here is what the virtues mean and why those are important. Here is what you are going to be playing as and the eras that you are playing in. Yes, it's a high-level overview, but if you were expecting this book to have a complete setting, one, I feel like it's a little unfair. Most role-playing books, looking at you, D&D, don't come with their setting baked in. They come with their setting implied. And yes, this book references a ton of material that is coming out that says, hey, if you would like to know more about X, see Y, which is in our pipeline, which could be frustrating to some people. But the other thing is, it's Pendragon. It's medieval Arthur. It's Arthurian romance. Possibly the most easily referenced setting of a near fantasy setting at all. We all know King Arthur. You can pick up Le Morte Arthur. You can pick up The Once and Future King. You can watch The Sword in the Stone. You can watch Excalibur. So, let the buyer beware. This does not come with a richly detailed look at Arthur's England for several reasons. One, the Great Pendragon campaign covers more than just one slice of life in Arthur's timeline. And two, they want to have time to get those setting information as lovely laid out and put out as possible. Additionally, this is the rule book. You're going to be able to refer to the rules, players and GMs alike. So, that disclaimer being out of the way, hopefully this, again, let the buyer beware. You know what you're getting into going into it. You're not going to get a ton of setting information. Unless, of course, you read the entire book from cover to cover. Because, as I said, this game is dripping with implicit setting. As you read through, hey, what does it mean to be a knight? What does it mean to be a lady? What are courts like? You're not getting, details on Umbria and Cambria, but you're getting a feel for the setting. Hey, John Doom, good to see you. So, this is the cover of the Pendragon book. Clearly, we've got the Green Knight on the cover, and I've got to say, the art is spectacular for several reasons. There's a lot of different styles in here, and all of the styles fit the Arthurian genre. So we've got the sword and the stone. You've got some great pieces like this, showing off Arthur and Guinevere in a very sort of portrait style. But then you get little marginalia throughout this whole book, kind of the weird marginalia, little images of rabbits and animals kind of throughout. And then you get gorgeous pieces like this, which are clearly inspired by illuminated manuscripts. The art is, I can just keep flipping through and showing off great pieces of art. The layout is fairly simple. It's not fancy. It doesn't distract from the reading. The one I see why they did it, not a choice I would have made, is sometimes you get two-panel layout like this, where the margin's in the center. Sometimes you get it like this, where there's a sidebar, the margin is kicked over to the side, or sometimes the margins are on the inside. So it's a little distracting as I read through it. Each page, depending on, and I mean, it's very logical where these different page layouts are found at. It's just a little distracting for me as I flip through the book. Again, love the little rabbit marginalia, another piece of art. Then you have some very just gorgeous, I would call the modern style there. So, what do you get in here? Well, you get the entirety of the rule set. So, how do you create knights? All there. How does combat work? Very important, including mass combat. You get, for me, one of the most wonderful things is at the end there's a coat of arms generator, because this is important for your knights. How does wealth and treasure and trade work? There's an entire chapter on horses, because horses are very important to the knights. And the thing to remember about this game, and I think this plays into the fact that they're saying, hey, these books are coming. Pendragon is designed for a specific style of gameplay. Now, you can play a traditional role-playing game with it, but it's designed from the ground up for what I call the Grand Campaign. You're going to play multiple knights. Your children will inherit part of your honor and your glory. The more honor and glory you have, the better your house is. Your house will rise and fall. The knight you start with will grow old and die, and their children will take their place. And they set all of that up in 250 pages. It's a very usable rule book. This is the kind of rule book that getting a couple copies for the table makes a lot of sense. You're not getting a ton of GM hidden only information. You're not getting a bunch of material that would make the book harder to reference at the table and in gameplay. Padre, yes. In fact, they did Paladin, which is the previous edition of Pendragon. They did Paladin, which is basically the Song of Roland. Man, there's just great art in here. We talked a little bit about the traits and the passions and how that is sort of a core component of the game. That as you increase traits, other traits decrease. As you increase passions, these things start to define your knight. They may seem restrictive, But remember, these are all choices that players are making as you are building the character, moving through. One of my favorite rules in this game is how they handle madness. Now, they don't handle madness in the way they call Cthulhu handles madness. They handle madness in the way Mallory or White or Joffrey handles madness. Sometimes you are overcome by your trait or your passion, and your character goes mad. Lancelot strips off all of his armor and goes running away off into the forest for a year. That can happen to your character. If you fumble a trait roll that you're really passionate about or critically succeed on the opposing trait roll, you can go into a bout of madness and lose yourself in that passion or trait, and it drives you off from the world. And depending on how you roll, the GM may say, excellent, your knight will be back in another adventure. You're going to need to play your squire for the next several because Sir Belmont is in a monastery somewhere or out in the woods hunting down wild animals and drinking from forest ponds. It's kind of cool. The other thing that I like about this system is you have hit points. They work like hit points. But if you take a large enough strike at a time, you will become wounded, maybe majorly wounded, maybe get knocked unconscious. And wounds are harder to heal than it is to recover hit points. And this replicates the fact that knights sometimes get wounded in tournaments or on quests, and it'll take you some time to heal from that. Another thing that I love is, and we're going to jump over to that right now to talk about, they added the solo scenario rules in here. So what happens, you may ask, if this is a generational game, if I miss a session? You're SOL. No. What happens is, whether you miss a session or you're doing the winter phase, they have rules for solo activities because this is based off BRP. So you get better at the skills you use. If I miss a session, suddenly my character is behind where everyone else is. Well, they have a chapter on, well, what was your character doing that solo session? You get to roll on some tables to see what was the event based off your duties. Were you escorting somebody? Did you have an illness? Was there a tournament? Was there something really strange going on? Here's what skills you were able to use, and you get to test them, see if they increase, and then dovetail right back into the session. This is something I would like to adapt to a lot more games. Like this solo session rules I'm adapting to my Vendom game that I'm playing right now in Jackals. So again, this gives you everything you need to make a knight and fight other knights. Now again, another complaint that I saw recently about this book is, hey, there's no bestiary in here. That is true. I think that this rulebook works best if you also buy the Grey Knight, so you have adventures and statistics to go along with that, or you have the starter set, which has an adventure and statistics in it. But here's the thing. You don't need a bestiary to start off with this game, because most of your opponents are going to start off by being humans and knights. You can extrapolate how to build a knight and a commoner and a bandit from the core rulebook. Now, yes, that is more work on your part as a GM. Not denying that. And yes, they are planning on coming out with more supplements. And again, you can buy the Grey Knight now and have a series of adventures to play that come with all the statistics that then you can use to reskin, copy, and paste and put out in your games. If that sounds like a lot of work to you, either buy the Grey Knight, get the starter set, or wait till the end of the year when more Pendragon products are most likely going to be out on the shelves. But for me, I like the slimness of this rulebook. It's 250 pages. It's well interconnected. That makes it pretty easy to reference and use at the game table, or even just read through and absorb. A lot of times, and I love, let me make it clear, I love both styles of games. I love that my D&D and my Pendragon and my other games have an implicit setting, Heroes Unlimited, that I can build on and riff off on my own. I do also like a setting that is paired with the system. Padre brought up Star Wars, the Infinity or Conan role-playing game, where I have to read to learn about the world because the world and the system are intertwined. So just be aware. Know what you're getting going into it, so that if it doesn't meet your expectations, and you don't know what you're getting, or you know what you're getting into, that's one thing. If it doesn't meet your expectations because it's unreasonable, that's on you. I have a review of Jackals that was angry that I didn't include Bronze Age China or the Kabbalah demons and monsters in a game about the Bronze Age Ancient Near East, which it clearly says on the back cover, as well as the Kabbalah's medieval, not Bronze Age. I feel like that is not a fault of Jackals, but a unmet expectations that were unreasonable from the reviewer. But that's fine. He didn't like my game. That's all right. You may not like the fact that the book sort of expects you to understand who Arthur was, or go out and do some research, or buy the adventure book. That's okay. But if you like games that expect you to dig in and to sit in a setting for years, Pendragon remains the gold standard of grand campaigning in role-playing games. So, thanks, John Doom. Did not mean to get on a little soapbox there. So, Pendragon, you can get it through chaosium.com. I have a link to the Drive-Thru RPG PDF where you can pick it up there in the show notes. And man, like even, and this is a weird thing for me to say, but even the smell of the book is perfect. Like the smell of that like parchment paper and ink. You get just bright colors. And I would say whoever did the art direction on this, let's see here. The art direction of this was done by... It does not say who the art director was. Well, whoever did the art direction, well done. You clearly understand that the medieval mind was filled and fascinated with just bright, vibrant colors. And that just is poured out through this book. The marginalia is fantastic. The chapter headings are fantastic. But again, gold standard for the grand campaign. So that's it. That brings us to the end of today's look at Pendragon. We're dedicating the next month to Palladium, a company that I love, a game system that I love. We are going to be looking at a bunch of Palladium books. They were kind enough to send me some review copies. And I'm going to talk about the games, but also my experience with Palladium. Palladium, in my mind, kind of remains the golden age of gaming for me, and I'll explain more about that next week. So, cheers, Padre and John Doom. Cheers. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I will be on the PEG channels tonight. Anywhere Pinnacle is streamed, I will be there. We're going to be talking with Jacob, who has a Kickstarter going on right now for a fantasy setting for Suede, and we're going to be talking with him on the Savage Universe stream. And that's it. Next week we're going to talk about Beyond the Supernatural, and Evan and I will be back next Saturday with Exploring Glorantha. So, till then, have a good one, everyone.